What are you reading right now?
So I'm reading. It's one of the so reading. It's a book about Bushido, which is the way of the warrior.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard of that.
yeah, the warrior code. I've read a lot of books about it, but this is written by someone who kind of lives local,
Yeah,
or at least moved here after however many years. Um, so she's kind of describing her her take on, or she's applying the way of the warrior in all of the different like codes of the warrior to modern day things,
yeah,
and bringing back like her memories and experiences with things and sharing stories with people she might know or whatever that might be based off of that code, which just makes me think that I can write the same thing in about 20 years to give it some space. Because like even in 20 years, things are going to be different. So I think
yeah.
it's going to be kind of cool. And it just kind of gives me an idea because obviously this touches to my culture too. So it's kind of nice in that regard. Um, and we've been talking more recently about like going on a trip back to Japan and stuff. So like for me, it's like getting back to my cultural roots and everything, and having those conversations. So it's definitely nice to do that. So just kind of reading the stories kind of reminds me of like kind of our culture and everything, and
Hmm.
kind of inspires me to write a book later in life.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of doing the same thing, like taking this code and applying it to what I've experienced. So it's very personal at that point.
Right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Real Talk. We're your hosts. My name is Steven. Got my brother Tyler again over there on the virtual side of the room, as he is so far every week. Maybe hopefully we'll get closer and closer to just filming everything in the same room. But this pandemic taught us that we could do any of this wherever we are. And so we're grateful for that. Today's topic is about mental reset. Tough days are inevitable, sometimes plenty as we truck through our days and our weeks. Life may sometimes give us a detour from our routine. And, from our previous episode, we love talking about routine. We talk about it a lot, actually. And, though it doesn't have to be obsessive, routines, it keeps the stability in our lives. But what happens when we do have to take that detour from time to time? So, in this episode, we're definitely going to talk about how we handle stress, but most importantly, figure out how we personally ease our way back in from being out of sync. And so, as always, before we begin, we're going to do a quick vibe check around the virtual room, see how we're both doing today. Before we start our conversation, as we always do every week, it's always nice to check in with one another and make sure we're all feeling all right. So, Tyler, man, how's it going with you today?
It's going pretty good. Pretty good. It's one of those days. It's just long. And by the time this episode comes out, I'll actually be coming back from a conference technically. So it'll be crazy. Obviously, when we record the next episode, it'll be give you an update because this conversation kind of goes with me traveling and me being super busy and all that stuff. And it's going to be a long week in another state. So, when this episode drops, I'll probably be coming back from Atlanta at that point. So it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be kind of rejuvenating to travel for work, but at the same time, not, because it's kind of, there's going to be stress, I'm sure, with everything that's happened during this pandemic. You got new variants coming out, so like, oh God, I got to wear a mask all this time. And, how lax is it in Atlanta as far as masks go? And then what am I going to do? Am I going to be the only person in a mask at this conference? Who knows? Probably not, but you never know. So while will be rejuvenating in the sense of, wow, I get to see all these people that I haven't seen in 3 years, like I normally do on an annual basis, there's going to be stress involved for sure. And yeah, like, who knows? who knows
Yeah.
what this is going to be like? And guess, hop on the next episode to hear my take on how I'm feeling after getting back from that. But, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be crazy, though, for sure. Otherwise, I'm doing well. Just mentally prepping for this trip and for all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Let's get right into it. So, question: how do you reset after a rough day or a rough couple of days? Or shoot, in our day and age of the pandemic, work from home, or whatever we're doing now, a rough couple of weeks or months, even, right?
Yeah.
But how do you what do you do to get back in control when things feel out of hand? So pretty much, how do you reshift, refocus your mind back on track, even if it's just for a few minutes a day or a few hours? What do you do?
Yeah. I think, it's funny because obviously we revisit certain things as we go on with time. And it'd be interesting too, to even in prep for this, I didn't go and do it, but looking back at, what was it? Was that our first episode of how we stay sane? Like how we're staying
So.
sane during the pandemic, like this,
yeah.
which is wild. Because if you think about it, I don't know how many episodes we're in at this point, but like it's been 2 years since we first recorded that episode. It would be interesting, like after we record this and after this obviously goes live and everything, it's just, it'll be interesting to listen to both, see if my answer changed,
Yeah.
because like kind of going into it, obviously I didn't listen to it to like compare, but I imagine I would be doing the same thing as past me, at least, past me. We talked about whatever the 5 ways to stay sane during the pandemic or whatever the heck we said. But I think it's fairly relatable to that, similar to that episode. And I'm sure and I know at one point we did do an episode on burnout, which is very similar as well. So to revisit these issues, because I know that they're always a thing, it's always going to be a thing. Just because we constantly burn ourselves out on certain things, we always take our steps back, but we always burn ourselves out too. So, for me, when I'm feeling out of sync, and usually that's due to either burnout or maybe I'm just having an off day or whatever, we're in a funk that isn't necessarily, it might not necessarily be burnout. It just might be that we're in a funk. We just can't figure out why we're in this funk, or maybe we're just we're slightly depressed because of other stuff happening and whatever that might be. But going off of that stuff, I would say that for me personally, like I think it's always about taking a step back and just reassessing where you're at. Like why am I feeling this way? Why do I think I feel this way? Anyways, it's just one of those things. Like you just never know why you feel that way until you take a step back and look at the whole picture, look at the bigger picture. You know what I mean? And you may not even recognize these things right away. Someone might tell you or whatever, and then you start reflecting and everything. And it's just like, you might not get it on that first reflection period. You might have to go back to it, go back to the drawing board, and just try to figure out what's wrong, and just reevaluate your days. Sometimes doing that could take, a few days, a week, even a couple weeks, who knows, just based on, how deep you're going into the soul searching reflection part. So it really depends, kind of identifying what is the core reason you're feeling this way. Why are you feeling burnt out, stressed, out of sync, whatever it might be. It might be something small, might be something at work, might be something in your personal life. Who knows? It's just one of those things. So for me personally, I take a step back. I try to reflect and I try to, meditate a little bit, because, for me, meditating works. I know a lot of people, maybe it doesn't work. It's one of those things, like in order to meditate, I guess the correct way. You're really like letting your mind go and absolutely thinking about nothing. And that is easier said than done, because there's always something that you're thinking about, all that stuff. But sometimes just not thinking and just like going into a deep trance of just like nothingness. This is kind of nice. It can really like point you to what like your issues are, what's going on and all that stuff, and like really kind of center you, really. So for me, there's definitely like meditation and reflection that are in there. And also just doing things that I enjoy doing. That also usually knocks me out of it too. Whether that be, playing games or doing something with friends or going out on a run, whatever kind of like relieves that stress of a long day. And all of that, there's so many different things that you could potentially do to kind of relieve that stress. For me, those are kind of the things I do. I kind of, go bowling, or maybe I run or talk with friends, hang out, play video games. Maybe I just read a book. I just read, because, for me, one of my favorite genres of reading, and I read many different genres, but, like the self-improvement, self-help type of books too. Just because, like, in order to really understand meditation, sometimes you have to read books on meditation and self-help. So like, I have like a shelf here that's, you can't really see it because it's like blocked off here, but there's books there. There's another bookshelf in the other room that has a bunch of different books. And that's kind of part of also like 75 hard, part of it's reading at least 10 pages a day of a self-improvement type of book. So I feel like that part's kind of an easy part of 75 hard for at least me.
Right.
At least me. I know you're trying to build a routine of getting back into reading, but like, if there's something that interests me, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
I think what typically a lot of people, like, if they do enjoy reading, they'll go back to reading. But and I can't speak for everyone, because this might just be maybe half the population, but you might enjoy reading, but you might go to college and then you might learn to hate reading because college makes you read 7 books in 2 weeks. So it's like, this is one of those things. Or you're reading very dense material that just turns you off to reading all in general. But if there's anything that I can say, at least post college, is just try to get back into reading if you can, just because it is a relaxing hobby, or I guess it's a hobby, like, whatever, practice, whatever. But yeah, it's just reading whatever books, whether that, it doesn't have to be self-improvement or self-help or whatever genre that is. You can read comic books if that's what you like, or just read like a sci-fi or a drama, or like a, Harry Potter type of book, if that's what really grabs your mind, or just any sort of like mystery stories too. Whatever it is, that can just that immerses you in a different type of world. You know what I mean? It's like meditation, where you're finding your center and you're immersing yourself basically in nothingness to really find your balance. But sometimes it's nice to escape your own little world and then go into another world, whether you put yourself in that situation or you're just painting the picture with your mind of what this author is trying to illustrate. It's getting you out of your body, essentially. You're thinking about something else. And, if you're thinking about, I don't know, how your day went when you're reading, you have to reevaluate. Again, this is where the reevaluating comes in. It's just like, maybe you should figure that out before you start reading, because the point of reading is to distract you or even get you away from what's going on and put you in a different world, a different place, to really kind of, immerse yourself in, to kind of break that funk or whatever it is you're going through. And, I can see the other side of that argument, where it's like, oh, you're just sweeping your problems under the rug by putting yourself in another situation, which I totally understand. That's also a valid point. But we're also talking about, like, this is me, I enjoy reading. I enjoy getting immersed into this different plane of existence and world, to where, like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, maybe, sometimes you even picture yourself in those situations, or like, that's why those games are so addicting. Those certain type of, like, the choice games. Yeah, I'm talking about, like those games that, like, there's a story there, but then the direction of the story is based on what you choose that main character to do. So essentially now you're putting yourself in their shoes, and there's some games where there's consequences for the the decision you make, which is very stressful for sure. But it's just one of those things, like, I don't know. As those are kind of some of the things that I do, at least, to kind of get myself out of the rut or the funk or the sink or whatever, and just kind of get back into me being me, I guess. It's all about creating a routine of some sort.
Right.
And sometimes the routine, you got to shake it up, but you still got to go through a routine. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but the things you do during the day are technically routine, right?
Right. No, your day to day, of course. Yeah. It's one of those things that is funny that, we're talking about this now because, it's one of those days where like, we're kind of just like, I just feel like I'm always going, and I'm always like an endless to-do list of just getting things done. And even though I feel productive and I'm checking things off the list, I do feel out of sync. I feel like, I'm it's a little out of control. Though the results are nice, but it's kind of going in a whirlwind. And so I started to realize, how do I take a little bit of control back? And that kind of made me think about today's episode. And it's everyone kind of has their thing of recentering themselves. And for me, it was like, all right, what are my daily essentials that will kind of bring me back to center, right? Because, sometimes your day-to-day can include work, but sometimes work can go in many multifaceted, dimensions of like, of whatever, like, it kind of throws you out of a loop. So what are those day-to-days that kind of get you back center? And that's kind of like what you mentioned before. What are the hobbies that you do daily to kind of get you back on track, like reading, right? Meditating, doing a little workout, like literally putting things down and like, what? I'm going to dedicate this time for myself, which is to read, or to take a bath, or maybe just to take a quick shower, right? Those are things that are kind of ways that you can kind of put yourself in control. And even though I'm kind of speaking generally, these are things that I do, and everything is subjective to each individual. So, maybe I just can't sleep, and how I reset my mind to kind of recenter myself to be able to fall asleep. Maybe I'll go shower again, right? Or I'll go shower, brush my teeth again, things that people could be asking, like, really, shower back to back or twice, 3 times in a day? Most people shower twice. I don't know. Maybe you don't shower at all, and this is your one at a time, whatever. But I shower at least once a day, but always before I sleep. So it's one of those things. Maybe I'll shower again. Maybe I showered already, and maybe it's like 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, and when I'm trying to sleep, can't sleep. Go shower again. Who knows? Maybe read another chapter of your book. Those are kind of things that I found work for me. Especially I'm not the craziest person who works out, but like I do enjoy like getting on my stationary bike, and maybe you just need to burn off some anxiety of just moving, right? A lot of people tend to like to go for a walk, and those are things that just do a little quick lap around the block to kind of get your mind off things. I always feel too lazy to walk, but sometimes when I have to, walk my dog, get out of the house, I don't regret it when I come back in the house. I have a clearer mind. So, I feel like one of those things for me to kind of get back in control when things feel out of hand is to take a step away, kind of like what you mentioned, right? Peel back a little bit, look at the whole picture, meditate or whatever, or do something that's out of the routine to get back into it. And I know we're talking about routine, so it's one of those things where your routine is out of sync anyways because something interrupted it. Interrupt that interruption, right? So let's say my routine is this one line, this linear path. Something cuts me off to detour it, so that interrupts, it throws me out of sync. So I'll try to do something else to intervene that cutoff, right? Typically, you'll read a book maybe at 7 p.m., but in the middle of, I don't know, 1 o'clock, you find that you have time to, I don't know, just intersect this now with reading a book now for like your lunch break or something to kind of get you back in mind. So I think that was pretty straightforward. I think that's all the time we have tonight. To wrap things up, Tyler, do you have any final thoughts on today's topic?
I think just find what works best for you. Honestly, whoever's listening to this, I think that's just the important thing, is just really finding what works best for you. What we say and what we do is not necessarily the best action for what you need to do for yourself.
And we're always changing it too.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, this could be interesting to go back to our earlier episodes. When we were young and naive during the beginning of the pandemic. I don't know. We were talking about just stuff we did, and I don't know how much that helped. I don't know. I feel anxious sometimes during the pandemic. It just happens. It's been 2 years. Give us a break. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's been a long 2 years, to say the least. This is one of those things that a lot of people thought was going to be gone in 6 months, but here we are, still talking about it during this weird time, and then, everyone's like, well, pandemics usually last 2 to 3 years. So it's like, well, all right, if it's another year, here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. But yeah, do what's best for you. And sometimes that's a little bit of a soul search kind of situation, maybe you don't have to go as deep as a soul search, but, try different things. It's just like when you're trying to find something that you like doing, not everyone likes playing basketball. Not everyone likes playing football or soccer or playing an instrument. Maybe you don't like that either. It's trial and error,
Yeah.
Find something that works for you. What we do may not work for you. Meditation, you might not just get the same relief as we do, or, reading a book, you might just not like reading, it might bore you to the point where it's just causing you more pain. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, that's really what it is just kind of learning yourself in the process, and just really going out there and finding stuff that you enjoy doing and what really centers you back to who you are, staying true to your roots, not changing anything. Well, obviously changing something to get to a better place and getting you back centered, but just finding what works best for you. Because again, what I do might not work for you, or what you do might not work for me. So that's probably the best thing I can close out with.
Nice. Thanks, man. And thank y'all for listening today. Thank you for, just always tuning in with kind of our real talk thoughts, just personally, our thoughts of things that we want to talk about in the moment, or things that we're just burning to discuss. So now it's your turn to tell us about, how do you reset after a rough day or rough times? What do you do to get yourself back in control when things just feel out of hand? Share with us your thoughts, because maybe, some things that we spoke on today can help you out. And maybe some things you can share with us can help us out. And, let us know, because like we always say as we sign off, most importantly, we always got to keep the dialogue going with each other. That's how we all learn. So keep discussing, keep thinking, and keep growing. And we'll see y'all next time.
Have a good morning, night, whatever it is. And we'll catch you later.